Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my teaching slam for NITOP 2021. My name is Jason Eggerman, and I'm a full-time psychology instructor at Spokane Community College in Spokane, Washington. So before we dive into the teaching slam that I want to share with you, I wanted to start with a couple of important caveats because I think it's always important at talks like this that we understand that the idea I'm sharing isn't necessarily going to resonate with everybody, and that's okay. Some of us teach smaller classes, some of us teach larger classes, some of us teach at institutions where maybe we have a little bit more freedom to do things the way we want as an individual. Others teach more as collaborative members of departments. So I just wanted to kind of preface this by pointing out where I teach and where I'm coming from, because this may or may not work for you depending on your teaching environment. So a couple of important things here. My online classes, which is what this is going to focus on, my online classes are 100% asynchronous. So all of this shift that we've seen recently to what I would maybe call more remote instruction or remote virtual learning, in my mind, that's really not the same thing as an online class. To me, an online class is 100% asynchronous. That's where I'm coming from, is that my students are able to work on things at times of day that works best for them. There is no synchronous component where we're all meeting at a certain time, or we're never meeting live. Outside of maybe a scheduled meeting or an office hour or something like that. Also, our online classes are contractually capped at 25 students. And my load every quarter, I'm on a school that does quarters, and so my full-time load is 333. So when I'm teaching fully online with 25 students in a class, the most students I ever have at any one time is about 75. Okay, so keeping those caveats in mind, here's the idea that I have to share with everybody for this teaching slam. When I started teaching online, one of the things that I found the most challenging was trying to replicate a sense of community with my students. The sense of community for me had always come kind of naturally in face-to-face classes, and I credit that mostly to utilizing the time when students would be arriving in class to chat with them. I will forever be a huge believer that the 10, 15 minutes before class, whatever time you can get before class actually starts, is absolutely golden for a face-to-face class. That's the time when I'm working the room. That's the time when I'm chatting with people, trying to get to know them in a very informal sense. What was really hard for me was this sort of informal, just chatting before class starts. You don't have that in an online class. People are logging in at all different times of day. So it really led to this feeling of being sort of disconnected. And I found myself at graduation a couple times hearing names being called. And it's like, oh, I had that person in 2 classes. Don't recognize them. Don't remember anything about them. And I hated that. So one of the things I thought that I could do would be to implement a survey. I've used surveys in face-to-face classes before, but this was sort of a ramped up, kind of survey on steroids for my online class. And I just would embed it into a module at the beginning of the class. Some of the questions that I would use in this module are asking students things like, what's your future plans? Asking them if they work, if they have kids, what their hobbies are, asking them if they've ever attended other colleges before coming to SCC, asking them if there's anything else they want me to know or anything I can do to help them be more comfortable in the class. These are generally fairly standard questions that I would already be asking in a face-to-face class. I'm just emphasizing them more in the online environment and asking more, maybe more detailed questions. This is where the teaching slam idea comes in. Because I would guess that many of us have used surveys before, and so this really isn't anything new or anything special. What I then do is I use these surveys to take very detailed notes and try to paint a picture of each student that I can then refer to throughout the quarter. This is very time consuming. I will point that out, and that this probably doesn't scale to larger classes. But it is very, in my opinion, it is worth it to invest the hours that I put into making these cheat sheets, because then I have something that I carry around with me in my backpack. I tape it to the walls next to my desktop computer in the basement. I've got these cheat sheets that I can constantly be referencing. And so how I use these would be, let's say a student emails me. As I'm reading the email, I'm going to go to the cheat sheet and remind myself, who is this? What are they into? What are their goals? What are their hobbies? What's their family situation? What's their work situation? I'm also going to add to these cheat sheets throughout the quarter. Any new information that might come up on a discussion board or in an office hour Zoom conversation with a student, I might kind of go take some additional notes and add information to the cheat sheet. And then the last thing I might try to do with these cheat sheets is I'm going to use them to try to send students things that they're interested in. So anytime I come across something and it sparks my memory from something that a student had said on their, on their survey, it could be a NOBA article that I see, it could be a YouTube video, it could be a Coursera MOOC, really any resource related to psychology that's not necessarily already built into the course. Anything I see that sparks my memory of like, oh yeah, there was a student who said something about this, I'm going to go back to my cheat sheet. I'm going to find who it was that mentioned that particular topic, and I'm going to send them that resource in a personalized email. That really gets students' attention when they get this sort of humanized one-on-one email of like, hey, Bob, I heard that you mentioned this earlier in the course, and by the way, I just saw this thing that relates to that, so I'm sending it along in case you're interested. That's my talk. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to chat about this some more, and I hope it was useful.